again, they're not going to tell you what to ask for. They're not going to say, hey, you need to put this on your repair request, or hey, you need to handle this, or you need to fix this particular item, and this is how you do it. They're just pointing out potential issues, and then it's up to you to decide what's most important to you, which things you want to focus on in that repair negotiation as well. And so the inspector is going to take that half hour or so to kind of walk you through exactly what their findings were, and that's usually the ideal time for you to ask any questions that you may have. I would much rather tell people like it's not the time for you to act like you're too. Welcome to the Home Goals Podcast, the ultimate guide for turning your home goals into reality. I'm your host, Derek Thornton. Join us as we navigate the twists and turns of obtaining a home. We'll be offering expert tips, helping you avoid pitfalls, and championing your journey towards that cherished place to call home. In this week's episode, I wanted to take some time to talk about kind of one of the home buying basics and what really goes down at a home inspection. What things you can typically expect, what typically happens, how the appointments go, what happens after that appointment. All of that, we really want to take some time to kind of go into the nuts and bolts of that, because that is one of the main things that speaks to one of the biggest concerns that buyers have when they're purchasing a house, which is what issues or problems may be wrong with this house, right? There's two primary concerns that most buyers usually have, and that is one, they don't want to overpay for the house, and two, they don't want to buy a lemon, right? Those are the two kind of thoughts that are always swirling around the back of a buyer's mind when they're going through the purchase process, and the home inspection directly plays into answering one of those questions, right? And understanding it, and the better expectations, the better idea of what you can have before you go into that process, the better equipped you're going to be, especially for first-time home buyers, because a lot of times this is your first interaction with a home inspector. You don't know what you should be expecting during this particular appointment. You don't know what's happening. They're kind of telling you all this information. Some of it's going over your head. Some of it you're trying to sneak in Google or ChatGPT what the answer might be, right? And figuring like, hey, is that something I need to be worried about? It's kind of like when you go get a doctor's appointment, right? And they kind of use these bunch of medical terms to explain what may or may not be wrong with you. And you're trying to Google what all these terms mean. It's a lot like the home inspection. And so I wanted to take some time kind of going into the details of what that typically looks like in a transaction. Now, one thing I always tell people is that the home inspection is, well, depending on what type of loan type and everything you have, but more times than not, the inspection is completely optional. There are some loans out there, some different loan programs that help give down payment assistance as well. And one of the stipulations to that assistance might be that they will require you to have some level of inspection done. But if it's a typical transaction that you're working with, more times than not, it's completely optional. However, it is highly, highly recommended. I have never had a deal where I did not urge someone to get a home inspection done. And fortunately, I've never had a transaction where the buyer elected not to have one, because I would definitely be scared and worried about what may transpire after the fact, what they may find out. Back in 2021, when the market was crazy, there were a lot of buyers who were saying, hey, we'll waive the home inspections. We're not even going to do them. We'll just take this house. Just give us the home. We don't care. We'll pay $100,000 over. And I'm willing to bet that in the years to come, we're going to see a lot more angry, frustrated sellers who are realizing that the homes that they purchased a few years ago, when they threw all caution to the wind, they're now going to start to see all of those potential problems and issues that a home inspection would have pointed out had they taken the time to do that. And so it's always something that I recommend, even if it's a new construction home. I have yet to see a blank home inspection report ever. There's always something that they will find in the home. Now, granted, a lot of times it may not be something that's serious, but it is going to be something, right? You pay somebody hundreds of dollars to go through a home and find something wrong. They're going to find something more times than not, right? And so you want to make sure that you find out those issues ahead of time. So typically the way that it works is usually when I'm having a buyer that is kind of coming in and they get a home under contract, I will typically send them an email saying like, hey, here are your next steps. And I'll list it out. Hey, here's what you do for this. Here's how you get the loan started. Here's who you need to reach out to. Here's who you need to call. I'll give it literally step by step so they know exactly what to do. I've done it so many times now that it's kind of like a system that I have in place for exactly what that process looks like. And one of those things, or one of the items on that list, is for them to contact a home inspector. And I will usually give them recommendations. More times than not, most people, unless they have a family member who works as a home inspector, they usually don't have any recommendations that they already know of. And so I'll usually send them recommendations for home inspectors in the area that I have worked with in the past who offer kind of bundle packages of different things that they offer. So the three primary ones that we typically have in our area are the home inspection, the general home inspection, the pest inspection, which is usually checking for like termites and termite damage or wood destroying insects. And then the third one is radon, right? It's a colorless, odorless, tasteless gas that rises up from the ground. It's in the air all around us. It's in the air that I'm in right now, that you are in as well. But long-term exposure to elevated levels has been known to lead to lung cancer, right? And so it's definitely something that you want to test for and make sure that if it is in your home, that you can have what's called a radon mitigation machine installed to have those levels brought back down. It's not the end of the world if there is one. I have a radon mitigation machine on my own personal home. It's something that we find, whatever. It's just a matter of making sure that you take the proper precautionary steps to make sure that your home, the place where you spend a lot of time, is not filled with dangerous levels of radon. Right. So those are the three main ones we typically deal with. Depending on the house, we may do, if it has a well, I may recommend that they do a well inspection. If it's on a septic system, I may recommend that they have a septic inspection done as well. Septic systems tend to be very neglected by a lot of homeowners. And so if you see one there, even if things appear to be fine, more than likely that seller probably hasn't had that septic serviced in a very long time. And it could be all kinds of issues in there that you're not aware of because everything is happening beneath the ground, right? And so those are kind of some additional things we want to do. HVAC inspection is another one that may get tacked onto there as well. Depending on the age of it, we may suggest that, or we may wait to see what the home inspector says. But the home, pest, and radon are generally the main three that we typically see. And we'll give you recommendations of inspectors who do package deals to do all of those. So when they come out to do the inspection, it usually takes anywhere from about 3 to 4 hours long for them to do the main general home inspection. And they are basically going through the home from top to bottom and seeing if there's anything, any potential issues or red flags that they notice and things that aren't working as they are intended to work. Right. So they're not going to come out, and I've said this before, the home inspector is not going to go through and say, hey, this item or this appliance is broken. You need to go to Lowe's and get this particular part and insert it and fix it. They're not going to go through all that. For liability purposes, they are just going to point out, hey, that particular item or that issue or that appliance is not working the way that it should be. You need to hire a qualified contractor to fix or address that particular item, right? And so they'll say like, hey, this HVAC isn't cooling the way that it should. You should bring in a HVAC contractor to fix this. Or, hey, this toilet over here is leaking. You may want to call in a plumber to fix this particular item, right? So like they'll reference all the people that you need to bring in, right? That's what the home inspector is doing. So they'll go all through the house. They'll test everything. If it's a personal property item, let's say, for example, a refrigerator or the washer dryer set, those they don't necessarily really test because, again, that's not necessarily considered a fixture or something like that's included with the home. If it's a built-in microwave, they will test that. They'll test the oven as well. But items like the refrigerator and stuff, they'll usually just kind of like open it just to make sure that it's working. But I want you to understand that in most cases, at least in our state anyway, they're not going to run a cycle with the washing machine. Even if that is included a part of the deal, they're not going to run or test that particular item to make sure that it's working. And so just keep that in mind. So they'll do their entire thing. Again, it takes about 3 to 4 hours. Usually the pest person will come during that appointment. The radon person will come and set up their machine. Their machine has to sit in the house for at least 48 hours to get an average reading of the levels in that home. And so a lot of times they'll come while the home inspector is working to do that as well. And then after the home inspector is done with that initial general home inspection that takes about 3 or 4 hours, they will usually take that time at the end to talk with the buyer and explain a general overview of their findings. So what I typically recommend all of my buyers to do is I tell them, hey, this appointment for that the inspector is set up is going to be about 4 hours. It might be like 9 a.m. to 12 or 9 a.m. to 1 or something. And I tell my buyer clients, hey, I wouldn't recommend that you show up at that inspection until like the last half hour or so. Now, granted, you could, if you wanted to, show up for the whole thing. But what I have found in my experience is that the buyer often gets in the way and often potentially messes things up if they're showing there and kind of looking over the inspector's shoulder the entire time, right? Most inspectors, they usually have a very detailed routine way that they like to do things, right? They'll come in and say, hey, I like to go in the kitchen and do this first and then come to this room and do that. And then they'll have like a system of all their little checklists and things that they like to do in whatever particular order they like to do them. And if you have a buyer that's in there kind of walking in and out of rooms, following them around, asking them questions, oh, what do you do about this? And what do you do about that? Now, all the inspectors I work with, they're really nice people and really kind, and so they'll gladly talk to you throughout that phase. But what I don't want to have happen is for you to talk and distract them and then take them out of their normal routine and cause them to inadvertently miss something that they would have normally caught if you hadn't been there, right? And so I always tell people, hey, don't spend 3-4 hours in the home looking around trying to see all this stuff and ask the inspector all these questions. I said, save all your questions for the end, right? I tell them, show up at the last 30 minutes of that inspection, talk to them, and then they will walk you through like, hey, here's what I found. Here's a general overview. Here's some photos that I took. They'll walk you through all of that and say like, hey, here's the things that I'm most concerned about. Here's the things that you probably just need to be aware of, but aren't necessarily an issue. All right. The inspector will go through all of that with you. Again, they're not going to tell you what to ask for. They're not going to say, hey, you need to put this on your repair request, or hey, you need to handle this, or you need to fix this particular item, and this is how you do it. They're just pointing out potential issues, and then it's up to you to decide what's most important to you, which things you want to focus on in that repair negotiation as well. And so the inspector is going to take that half hour or so to kind of walk you through exactly what their findings were, and that's usually the ideal time for you to ask any questions that you may have. I would much rather tell people like it's not the time for you to act like you're too cool to ask questions or say, oh, I'll just upload this report into ChatGPT and go. No, I want to hear from the actual expert in this matter, what their thoughts are, and talk to them through that. And so all the inspectors that I recommend, they're great at walking people through the problems and issues, right? So I don't pick people I pick people who are not only good at their job as far as like finding the issues, but I also pick people who are good at explaining and have kind of that teacher's mentality of showing a buyer what all of this information that they found, what it actually means, right? And so that's a great thing for you to kind of get used to and to expect in that process, right? So you have that last 30 minutes or so that they walk through. And then if you want to, I tell people this is also a wonderful time to bring a tape measure with you and measure for furniture, right? Count how many windows there are, like all the things that you weren't necessarily paying attention to the last time. Because for many buyers, the home inspection is the first time that you have walked into that home after going under contract. So most buyers, they tour the property, then they write the offer, go under contract, and then the inspection is the first time where they're actually walking into the home going like, oh, this is the house that I actually purchased. Like this is the home that we agreed to buy, right? And so it changes the whole mindset of you walking into that room, walking into that house, and kind of just the way that you look at things, right? Like you were like, oh, I didn't even realize like this area was a little bit smaller than I thought. I didn't realize that not all of the windows have curtains on them, right? And so like that's another thing where I need to measure these windows, make sure they have curtains. That's a great time to do all of those things and kind of walk through with a different set of eyes and go, okay, now that I'm actually moving forward with this purchase, I need to kind of see like, okay, what would it look like for my furniture to be in here, right? Like, is my bed big enough? Is my nightstand too large? You can do all of that stuff once you go there after that initial appointment. That after the inspection is a great time to be able to do that, because again, a lot of times it doesn't have to be, but for most buyers, that's the only time outside of the final walkthrough. That's the only other time that you're actually inside that home prior to the deal closing. And so that's a very important appointment that you want to be present for. Now, there are some inspectors and stuff like that who will do kind of that walkthrough of their findings virtually. They'll do a Zoom call with you or something like that. But I usually prefer for us to be able to meet at the house and do it that way, as they can actually show you in real time what they're talking about. And you can also take that time to kind of look through the house yourself. But that's how most typical home inspection appointments are going. It's one of the things where I don't want people to be scared, but I want them to have the appropriate expectation. I will always let someone know, like, hey, just so you know, this inspection report was a little bit heftier than what I normally see, or like that. But I don't want people to freak out. A lot of times they'll see the inspection report and go, oh my goodness, it's 40 pages long, and they're freaking out. They're like, oh my goodness, there's so much stuff on here. And then they realize like, oh, wait a minute, like these first 13 pages are just the summary, and then the last 27 pages are just a recap of what was mentioned in the summary. So really, it's not really a 40-page manifesto of like all the things that could possibly go wrong with this house. It's just making sure that they're thorough and explaining their findings, right? And so we'll always let you know. Again, I've seen a ton of inspection reports, as well as whatever realtor you may be working with. We see these things all the time. What I don't want you to get in the habit of is a lot of times buyers will take that inspection report and they will hand it to their friends and family, and their friends and family will freak them out even more and go, oh my goodness, what? You need to ask for this and you need to ask for that and all that. And it's like, hey guys, just so you know, again, especially in North Carolina, the seller's not required to fix anything. Right? You can demand and stomp your feet and pout and do everything you want to, but they're not required to fix a thing. Now, it's usually in their best interest to try to work with you to figure something out, because again, they are going to have to disclose those issues and items to other potential buyers. But if there are other buyers out there who would be willing to overlook those items, you need to know that. And the realtor is going to be the best source for whether or not that's the case, right? The realtor is going to be able to point out and say like, hey, I know that the average buyer is going to be expecting these items to be fixed. I know the average buyer is not going to care about that item, right? You want to focus on the people who are the experts, the people who have seen these reports day in and day out, because we have the expertise to kind of know what's going on. Friends and family, they may be well-intentioned, but at the end of the day, they don't see these reports often. And I'm willing to bet if you went through their house or sent an inspector through their house, they would likely find just as many, if not even more, serious issues and red flags as well, right? And so you want to make sure that you are looking to the professional that you hired to help you through this process, to understand what things are truly of a concern, what things you need to focus on, and what's the best way to make this deal happen if it is a good fit for you, right? Because we don't want you to just jump into something just because you feel like that you have no other options, right? Until you always want to make sure that you're making sound, wise decisions, not allowing your emotions to get the best of you in that situation, and really taking a step back and looking at the whole picture in its entirety. So I hope that that's helpful for you all. Again, every deal is different. Every house is different. And so your experience may vary from what your friends and other people have experienced when they purchase their homes, and that's okay. But you're here to figure out exactly how to get that deal done. And I wanted to give you guys a little bit behind the scenes on how a home inspection typically goes. So I hope that that was helpful for you all. If you ever have any questions, again, I'm always here to be a resource for you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll talk to you next week. Have a good one.